Oh, glad you can make it. We've been talking about church militant, and this is part three, and I've been going over Revelation chapter 4 with the four beasts around the throne, and Ezekiel chapter 1, same people. And now this is more technical things that we can get in our head because the next one I have is a really fun one with church militant in the wilderness and from Revelation 12. But I'd like to hit home a couple points, and that's the sanctuary in the wilderness and how they camped. And we're going to go to Numbers 24 verse, and it's talking about Balaam here. And Numbers 24, it says, verse 2 and then verse 4, it says, and Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents, according to their tribes. And the Spirit of God came upon him. Okay, and then verse 4, and he has said, which had heard the words of God, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. And what did he see with his eyes open? In verse 2, he saw Israel abiding in his tents around the sanctuary. And verse 4 calls it the vision of the Almighty. God, the sanctuary where God dwells amongst his people. And these are the four beasts around the throne, which are God's people. Now, when we look at this, we have the lion, the eagle, the bull, the sacrifice, and the man. So we go to Numbers chapter 2. Numbers chapter 2 will tell you how they camped around the sanctuary. On the east side, it tells you was the captain was Judah, and it was Issachar and Zebulun, and their captain was Judah, and their mascot was the lion. The lion of the tribe of Judah was their mascot. The captain on the north is Dan, and that was Asher and Naphtali up there with Dan, and their mascot was the eagle. On the west side, actually I think it goes to east to west in Numbers 2. You can check that out on me. And then the must be north next and south, but I could be wrong, but they're all there in chapter 2 of Numbers. Ephraim was the captain of the west side, and it was Manasseh and Benjamin over there with him. This is what Balaam saw when he looked down from that high mountain, and he saw the tents. Reuben was the captain. Sorry if there's glare there. There's glare when I'm looking at it, so. But it's Reuben, and he's the man. With Gad and the one tribe I didn't mention. Gad and somebody else. But they're all in Numbers chapter 2. And this is how they camped around. And this is what Balaam saw when in verse 4, he saw the vision of the Almighty. The vision of the Almighty, of God dwelling with his people, you and I. That's the vision that we need to show all the Balaams. Is God dwelling with us. So now, with that thought then, is I touched lightly on in Ezekiel chapter 1, and I just went right off it. Ezekiel chapter 1. We'll go to Revelation 4 because that's just easier. I got it right here right away. Okay, Revelation 4 talks of verse 6. And before the throne was a sea of glass, and in its like unto crystal. In the midst of the throne and round about the throne were four beasts full of eyes. Now can you understand? Four beasts full of eyes. The vision of the Almighty. You've got Issachar, Judah, and Zebulun camping around their God. So they're full of eyes. The first beast was like unto a lion. The second beast was a calf. The third beast, a face of a man. And the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. There it is. And what makes this in Revelation 4, chapter 4, different than the one in Ezekiel is that these have, in verse 4, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And when you go into the Greek, you can find out that the crowns were Stephanos' crown. They're the victory crown in Revelation chapter 2. And so these are with God in heaven. These are the victorious church. Ezekiel is the church here on earth. Same group of people wanting God to dwell in them, with them, along with them. And that's the four beasts. Numbers chapter 2 is how they camped around. Numbers 24 is how Balaam, when he looked down and he saw how Israel camped around, and he called it the vision of the Almighty, and he went into a trance. He saw it, and that's what he was looking at in verse 2 of 24. So it's a fun teaching, and I have more coming, but I do know people don't have a whole lot of time, and I wanted to, the other thought that I touched lightly on in part 1 and part 2, and I wanted to get a better visual. Okay, in chapter 7 of Revelation, what's it say? It says, I heard the number of them which were sealed, and the number was 144,000, and of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Verse 5, of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Okay, of the tribe of Reuben was 12,000. The tribe of Gad, he was on the south side, was 12,000. Asher was on the north, 12,000. Naphtali was 12,000. Manasseh, 12,000. Simeon, he's the south. He's the one I forgot earlier. He's south. And that, so yeah, 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. So you have 12, 12, and 12. And 12, 12, and 12. 12, so that's part of the church that God numbers. He doesn't, it's the hairs on the head. It's not the rest of the church, but it's the ones that he's dwelling with, that he's using to save others through. Because all through God's history here, all through the history of the earth, God's people have been sealed. It's not just a one-time sealing at the very end. Isaiah says, seal the law amongst my disciples. And so his disciples and his people have been throughout, and they've been sealed. And they've had the law in their heart. And there's 2 sealings within there the Bible talks about. That's another one. But anyway, so if we have 12,000 and each beast have 6 wings, so you have Issachar having 2 wings, Judah having 2 wings, and now it escapes me. Issachar, Judah, and Zebulun. on the south, on the east side. So it's two wings, two wings, two wings, two wings, two wings, two wings. The wings of faith, the wings of touching one another. Ezekiel 1 talks about how they touch one another where they go. It's how is when we have our prominent people of God telling us the things they've been through and how God worked mightily through them, doesn't that touch us? How they touch one another where they went? Ezekiel chapter 1. It's pretty phenomenal. But I wanted to show this a little bit better than I have been, and I'm new at this. And so thank you for your patience. And if you like this, it doesn't hurt to encourage me. If not, I'll keep on. It's a whatever. So, the vision around the sanctuary, the vision of the Almighty, the four beasts around the throne of God. When we are grafted in Romans 11, we're grafted in. Do you know what we're grafted into? This right here. With the Lion of the tribe of Judah, that got a law in their heart. With the bull, they've accepted a sacrifice on their behalf. And what happens? These two come together and they stand on their feet as a man of God, a person of God, and God takes them up on eagle's wings. Just think of that. Isn't that just fun? You have the lion, Issachar. Issachar, 2 Chronicles 12, I believe, verse 32, or 1 Chronicles 12, verse 32, says Issachar had understanding of the times. So if you're grafted into that one, you have understanding and you're going to be teaching. And so what you do is you come in and you understand and you have the law written in within your heart and you know you broke the law of God. So what you do, you come into the sanctuary, you slay that lamb, and you ask for forgiveness. And what you do, you kneel down and that lamb was slain. And then what you do is you get back up, you stand up. You stand on your feet as a man, and God picks you up on eagle's wings. And that's going to be Church Militant Part 4. The next one I do is what it's going to be like on eagle's wings, being carried on eagle's wings, and what it's been doing through the history and what it can do for us. Thanks for coming.